topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
It's Arthi with Light Up Your Life, and today we're looking at almost the end of the month, how time flies. I feel like I'm a running record, right? Time certainly does fly. And I'm happy to be with you all today. I know we've had some pre-recordings for a few weeks. I was actually doing a conference last week, and it was actually at it's called the VACI, which is children's organization that's designed for early childhood education. So I was really humbled to know how many great folks are starting to realize what a need there is to be in the early childhood circuit, and really getting us to understand the importance of the 0 to 5 modality for children. And there was a gentleman who actually is a software engineer, and he has designed a program for early childhood, and I just thanked him for taking all of his knowledge and everything and coming to the level of working in early childhood. And we actually need a lot more folks on deck at this point. And the more that I research and look at teacher burnout rate, the more that I realize it's because we have to have all hands on deck, and we really need to start looking at compensating our teachers better. In all realms. But it was a really great conference, and it was nice to kind of be in that circuit. And I hope you enjoyed the pre-recordings. It's always fun to watch some old episodes, and a couple of things that are going on. Soon I will be able to offer our grief recovery method online, and I will post some things on our social media to help understand that model. And very recently, a volunteer, actually it was last Monday, a volunteer, her name is Lexi Apolno, and she and I did a webinar on expressive journaling. And so we have created a YouTube channel. That's our first one for the Holistic Life Care, and just trying to spread the word on some educational webinars on things that we can all put in place, and to debunk some myths that exist. And on that episode, we both shared how there's a lot of myths around writing and journaling. And the fact is there's no right or wrong way to most of this stuff, as long as you give yourself permission to try it out. So it was about a 45-minute webinar. So if you want to check out the Holistic Life Care on YouTube, take a look, and would love your feedback. The next one, so we'll be looking at one a month. Right now, I am really concerned about folks who have, they may not even identify with social anxiety, but are having this pull at them to feel like they need to be more social now that the restrictions have lifted a little bit, and how hard it is for them to make that shift. So working on that so we can have an avenue for people to feel like they need permission to have some time and space, as we start to meet in different arenas, and also just acknowledge that everybody needs their space and time. So finding that delicate balance of individual and individual, family, friend, all the circuits, all that time. And again, continued acknowledgement. I think that we all are still, it's just as it is a heavy time. I think we have all realized we all are looking for this lifting. And I think we just have to go back to the area of gratitude for what you do have, and to continue with that. And now we move on to today's topic. As you know, this is the Cancer Network that provides a lot of information and a lot of greatness in cancer. And of course, anytime I get to be enlightened in this subject area, I love when guests decide that they want to use this forum for that. So really excited for that. And so today we have Deborah Miller with us, and she is a PhD, has a PhD. But now that I'm actually navigating in this world, doing my own, I'm like, you identify with it so much because it's so much work, good work, but a lot of work. PhD in cell and molecular biology, which I have to tell you all when we talk about today's topic, which is called EFT for cancer, and EFT stands for Emotion Freedom Technique, and I just absolutely love this modality. I had a client 2 weeks ago tell me how much EFT helped with helped them with trauma, and they said it literally helped them have that somatic experience, that body experience, to start healing from their trauma. And Deborah is also so she's a trainer and expert in EFT tapping. She's a Reiki master. Of course, you all know that I identify with that Reiki modality so much, and that and she definitely identifies with that as well. And a life transformational coach, which I would love further to discuss with her on how that has impacted her life and her clients. And she's an internationally well-renowned author, and she has written EFT for cancer with, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, Stephanie Moroni. And excuse me, Deborah has also written a children's book, and I'm really excited to hear how that went, because I think the more that we expose children to different modalities, like I just shared with you earlier, the more that we can literally transform society. Okay, with no further ado, I welcome Deborah onto our show for today.
Hi, it's such an honor to be here. And I love talking about this topic and how people can be more empowered and release those traumas and create a life that's much more fulfilling.
Yes, Deborah. I almost got teary-eyed with I actually cry a lot with my clients. I don't know, as I'm getting older, where this bottled up emotion, but I actually, when she said that it helped her so much, I just realized that she literally had that healing of that trauma lodged in her body, but then also that expansiveness, and you could just tell. So I'm her check-in appointments, but still, for her to have made that connection was really powerful.
Yes, and being able to release trauma in a very gentle way is, I think, such a blessing, because many times it's like we scratch the wound and we open it up and we review it and activate it, and then we don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things about emotional freedom techniques, which is got two short names, EFT or tapping. So if I use EFT or tapping interchangeably, it's the same technique. But using a technique that is so gentle and really so easy. I mean, I worked for many, many years with children with cancer. And if 2 and 3-year-olds can do this on their own, I have no doubt adults can use this technique to feel better, right? Yeah. And we need things that are literally at our fingertips, and EFT tapping is using our fingertips. So your tools are with you everywhere. You don't forget to take them with you. And I think that's really important, is just remembering to use the techniques. And there's so many ways you can use this technique that is really super easy, fun. And working with the children, they taught me many ways that I didn't even realize that you can use the technique to make it even silly and joyful. And even though we were in a hospital I was working with the children in a hospital, sitting in the hospital room, in their room, or in the treatment room with them at times, because I was lucky enough to be able to do that and just see this transformation, and sometimes just in minutes. And that's what I really love.
That's amazing. Well, Deborah, let's go to the beginning of time and hear your story. So can you share with the audience your story, wherever you want to begin, and then your
Okay.
journey of how you have fallen in love with this modality.
Okay. Well, it actually started with growing up on a farm in North Dakota. And so my parents changed the farm to organic farm when it wasn't even the thing to do, and started a health food store when it wasn't the thing to do, and brought in people that got me interested. And it actually took me in the scientific route first, because I thought, well, if I want to do these modalities, then I want to know something about the body. Well, it took me all the way to a PhD in cell and molecular biology. So it took me way out in the science field. But I really find that a blessing, because I can look at the situation from a scientific point of view. I explain things because I've also taught cell and molecular biology in Spanish as well as in English. So, then I can take that information and go, oh, this part of the body tends to be related to this. For example, um, you know, anger, it tends to be related to the liver, the gallbladder, and bile is very angry looking. And so you can tie that in and then go into the emotions. So that scientific route helped me. And then I actually went on an online prosperity class, and somebody presented EFT, and I loved it from the minute I heard about it, and I started using it on myself. I started studying it, using it with my friends, and then I started using it with my clients, and just went on from there. And a friend of mine, Till Schilling, has a tappy bear. So there's a stuffed bear that has the tapping points on it. And so I got one, and I was like, oh, I'd love to use it, right? And 2 days later, I got invited to a fundraiser for children with cancer out in a park. And so I went, and I got to work with 5 children, and it just touches your heart. You see them lying on cots out in a park under a tarp, and you're just seeing their stress and their worries and their fears, right? And then I spoke with the head oncologist, and out of my mouth came, well, what if we did something like this in the hospital? And he goes, oh yeah, we absolutely need more than just the physical. We need them to be able to release their fears and their stress, etc. And I went home going, why did I say that? I mean, I never thought about working with children with cancer in my life, but obviously it was part of my soul mission, because there I was. And the first child I saw when I went in the hospital was the first child I met at the park. And she told me she went home and showed her dad how to do this tapping technique, and they were doing it together. And so watching the children shift, and watching the stress relief in the parents, and even in the nurses, and even to the cleaning staff, is like, okay, there's something here. There's something we really need to do to release the fear and the anxiety and the worry and the pain, and this not knowing what's going to happen to your life, and create a way that even young children can empower themselves, parents empower themselves. It doesn't change that the cancer is there, but it changes your outlook. And, like if you're worried and stressed, how are you going to make good decisions, right? Because, well, okay, you might make a great decision, but you're going to do it very stressfully instead of calmly. And so we want people to be calm and centered. And so they feel that they're in their heart and they're making the best decision for themselves, whether it's conventional or non-conventional, because this is an individual journey and everybody needs to go on whatever path they need. And EFT is an amazing tool. I just found it completely complementary. The doctor said, compliance, children, calmer, and all those sorts of things throughout the whole process. Then their parents are calmer, and it goes round and round and round. But we can talk in more detail. But anyway, that was my journey of how I got from a farm girl all the way to doing these techniques, which I absolutely love.
Oh my gosh. I really love when people share their story of where they started from, because it all ties together. You can obviously tell that the grounding piece in your own life, and what this technique does, it just grounds to help reduce this anxiety, which, I always say, and I'm sure we all talk about, a healthy dose of anxiety is totally, it actually is beneficial, right? But at that point where it does, like you said, impair decision making and the overall stress, that's when it becomes catastrophic. And I also love that you said it's at your fingertips, because I do think the more that we talk about the use of our hands, and the more things that we do have accessible, because I think we're finding the modality of what can we do in the self-healing arena, and this is like one of them.
Yes.
It's so good.
Absolutely. And the thing with cancer, it's a big topic. And so I love EFT. It's like I've had 2 and 3-year olds to teenagers, well, adults as well, using the technique to manage so many of their emotions. But you certainly don't have to do it alone. And because it's a big journey in your life when you have something like cancer show up. But you can ask a practitioner like me to work with you, or someone else that who works with EFT, and get support in that and releasing the traumas. And one of the things that was really interesting that became something I wasn't aware was going to occur when I first started, because we were just going in and looking at reducing anxieties and fears and worries and anger. And children get angry when
Mm.
they have to have an IV or a spinal tap, and then your parents are stressed, those parents, because now their child is angry, or they're angry because they have to run and do paperwork. And so bringing this in to reduce those emotions helps so much. But then these children's, as we're working with them, then all of a sudden, because EFT is really wonderful about going into the subconscious, and things would just show up to help them understand what was some of the underlying reasons to have this. Not always, but many of the times it could be a misunderstanding. It could be a family trauma. It could be a personal trauma. And if you're interested, I can give some examples of some of these children. So, for example, one child, he was one of 10. He was the oldest. And so I asked him why he was sad one day. And he goes, well, he really wanted more hugs from his mom and dad. And I said, well, okay, so let's look and see. And so we're doing some tapping while we're talking and looking at things. I says, well, what does your mother do to make you feel loved? I mean, does she cook well for you? Yes. Is it flavorful? Yes. Right? Does she wash your clothes? Yes. Right? So does she do all the basics she can? I said, maybe because there's 10 of you, she just doesn't have time to do all the hugs, or she's not accustomed to doing that. What does your dad do? Well, he brings me to the hospital. He buys the meds I need, etc. And I said, oh, well, do you think that could be them showing you love, even though what you want is a hug? And he goes, yeah, I guess it is, right? So we're doing the tapping to help him reframe where he thought he wasn't being loved, right? And so, well, I said, maybe your mom would like a hug because she's really busy, or maybe your dad would too. And maybe you could start it with your other 9 siblings. This child went home and made a whole shift in his whole family because he had a new perspective about being loved. And it wasn't just the hug, but he could get the hugs and he could give the hugs. And so, now you've got a different viewpoint on your life. And so cancer, a lot of times people don't feel loved, right? And that has a huge effect on them. Another example was a child who had osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer in his femur. And he was really in a lot of pain for about a week or so, and so much so that I couldn't even do any tapping with him. And so and his sister was kind of his caretaker. So I go in the room one day, and he's kind of semi being okay. And so we do about 15 minutes of tapping, and his pain went from a 10 to 1.5. Right? Now, did his tumor go away? No, but his emotional pain went away enough that he could now eat and sit up and talk and do different things. So then we were tapping another day about, well, what hurts so deeply in you? Because I think about bones, right? The bones are like your basic down there structure, right? And as we were tapping, and this happens quite often, his eyes got wide and he goes, it really hurts that the people in my village argue and fight so much. And because he was a very sensitive young man, he really took it to heart. I mean, he took it to his bones, literally, right? And so it gave him a new perspective. Like, this is not your responsibility to hold on to the battles in your village. You get to be at peace, even though that's going on, and even though it's not comfortable or nice, right? So now he's got a different perspective on how to deal with that, right? And so these are just, 2 examples of how this technique helps you go underneath and look at what's going on. Right?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing to know what this shift, and like you said, it's not reducing the tumor per se, but like all of that,
And it
all
might.
and it might, you never know. Yeah, that's true. You
And
don't know.
in one case, there was a teenager, and he and I love to talk about things. So as we're doing the tapping, I said, "What are you feeling?" And he would explain different things about what his body was feeling as we were going through it. So one day he had a high fever, and he was really upset. And so the book that I wrote, The Dragon with Flames of Love, comes from this story, right? And this young man, he was at the time, I'm going to say like 16. So he was a little bit older, and 16 or 17. And so he went in for his last doctor's appointment after 2 years of treatment, ready to go home, be healed, be done. And he had a relapse. So now he's depressed, right? I didn't want to do another 2 years of these treatments. It's because it's tough, right? And so we sat down and we started doing some tapping to get him into a place. Well, okay, this is where I am. Okay, this is where I got to start again, and here we go, right? But then he had a fever, and so we're tapping about the fever and the heat in his body, etc. And so these children helped me learn about using lots of like superheroes or animals that are powerful for them. And I said, "What animal makes you feel powerful?" And he said, "A dragon." And I'm thinking, well, a dragon has a positive and kind of a negative connotation, right? Because they're kind of destructive in most of the movies, not necessarily that they are, but that's how they're portrayed. So out of my mouth comes, "Oh, how about he sends flames of love through your body?" He would like that a lot. So we're tapping about, having this fever, reducing the fever, letting the fever go, letting his body feel better. And he's got this powerful dragon supporting him and with him and sending these flames of love through his body. And he goes, "You know what?" He says, "I feel cooler inside." He felt a difference in his body. Okay, a couple hours later, the nurse came in and took his temperature, and his temperature had dropped. Was it the tapping or his change of perspective or the medications? I can't say quantitatively, but there's an association between all of them, right? So he had a change in perspective. He had something that made him feel empowered. And then he was having a communication with his body for his body to relax and come back into the normal temperature. So now this young man is more empowered instead of just feeling a victim of cancer that he thought he was done with and had to come back. Now he had motivation to continue, right? And old enough to understand much of what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I get the chills thinking about how,
Yeah.
when we think about how powerful something so simple can be. So speaking of simplicity, Deborah,
Yes.
not our audience may not be aware how we've described what it is, but how does EFT, like in a
Okay.
nutshell, kind of work?
Okay.
What is
I'll do a little science geek bit here, but
Yes,
not too in
yeah,
depth.
that is
Okay. So one of the things that I love about EFT is that it is so simple. The physical aspect of it is you tap on specific meridian acupuncture endpoints. I have a little tickle today. I was out in the garden. It was really dusty. Excuse me. Okay. So you're tapping on. Okay. Maybe I just need to tap.
I was gonna say it's a little
I'll show the points. Top of the head, eyebrows, the eyebrows closest to the nose, side of the eye, under the nose, under the lips. We do the kind of from the collarbone out and down. And then you probably won't see too much of this. No, I could do this arm. Underneath the armpit on the side of the body, about 3 to 4 inches underneath, kind of for a woman, kind of where the bra crosses the body, right? There's another point that's on the ribs. That's kind of hard to show. And then I personally like to use the wrist point, and I tend to do both of those together. So as you tap on these points, basically what's happening is we're communicating with the alert center in the body, which is called the amygdala. There are 2 little almond-shaped organs inside the head, right? And they're always on. because we need alert, right? If there's a bus or or something coming along, then you need to instantly jump out of the way. And this system sets it up so you're prepared, right? You turn on the fight and flight and freeze hormones. So that's adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol. Now, this is great in short term to save your life. And this is what we want. This is normal. But what happens is right now, it's like, oh, we don't have internet for a minute, half an hour, and we go into stress mode, right? Or, we look at the news and we get worried, and we look at anything that's happening around us and we get angry or upset. Now we've turned on that same fight and flight and freeze mode. And many times we don't let it turn off the way it should. So now we've created chronic stress. So cortisol is the inflammation hormone. So it creates inflammation in your body. Stress, it's the thoughts you have, the emotions you have that are really causing your body then to go into stress mode. Fortunately, unfortunately, when you're in the stress mode, you are not in regenerative mode. So if you got an illness like cancer, you want to get yourself into the regenerative mode as often as possible. So one of the neat things about doing tapping, right, is you're doing this technique, it's having this conversation with the amygdala, basically sending a message that says, calm down, relax, right? So now you're shutting down the stress hormone system and turning on the regenerative or relaxation system, which is serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine, right? So we know oxytocin is the cuddle hormone, right? Serotonin, this is why we love chocolate, right? Because it brings on that feel-good, lovey feeling, right? And dopamine makes us feel very active. So this is one of the benefits. If all you do is tap the points and not even say anything, you're starting to shift from the stress hormones into the regenerative hormones in your body. So this is just something to help your immune system have a little boost, a little benefit to get you out of the fear and the worry and the anxiety and the anger and the stress and move into something that is helping your physical body as well as your emotional body, right? And your spiritual body can go all that way. And it's such a simple technique to use. And this is why I say kids can use this. If a 2 and 3-year-old can, use it before a spinal tap, and a mom and dad go, well, why are you doing that? He goes, it feels better. He doesn't need to know what I just explained to you at all. He just knows it feels better. If it feels better, and if a child can drop their pain down, an adult can drop their pain down because they've changed their focus. They've changed aspects in their hormonal system as well. And there's research behind this. This isn't just me talking my personal viewpoint. I know there's over 100, probably close to 150 research articles. Some are double blind, some aren't, because doing double blind, the magic gold standard for research is can be very difficult to do and can't always be set up instantly. But what they're finding is, the cortisol drops anywhere from 20 to like 30 or 40%. That's a huge number, right? And so your immune markers go up. That means your immune system's getting a boost, right? I mean, it also lowers your cravings for, maybe something you don't need to eat. So there's other benefits as well, right? And another beautiful thing about EFT tapping is that you can do it, and we call it borrowing benefits. And maybe it's gifting benefits, right? Because as you do it, right, and this would happen in the hospital, I would do it, and all of a sudden it was like this ripple effect around me, right? You'd start seeing other people relax, right? So I'd work with a parent, and the child would relax. I'd work with a child, and the child would relax, and the parent would relax, right? Or we could do it together. It becomes a team effort. So this beautiful thing where, we're switching the stress system down, if not off, right, temporarily, because it's always going to be alert, and it should be, over to the regenerative recovery pathways in our physiological body, right? Then we get to use our thoughts and our feelings, right, to work on that next level, right? So kind of looking at quantum physics, what are we doing? We have thoughts, we have feelings, and they cause biochemistry in our body that then causes a feedback loop to make you want to think and feel the same thing, then your body makes more of the same chemicals, right? So let's say it's anger, I think anger, I feel anger, my body creates all the chemicals to feel that anger in your body, and then that creates you to think more anger, feel more anger, and then you've created a loop until you've created an automatic pattern in your subconscious. Most people don't say, I'm going to get angry today. They just get angry. It's an automatic response. So the beauty of doing tapping is it also gets into those automatic patterns and helps you release them, uncover them, peel the layer away of all the reasons you've been angry, right? And even getting down to the core reason that you can find it or be angry. Or that you've just been trained because that's what your family did, right? Or that's what your neighbors did. So tapping becomes very, very effective because then you can look at the emotions, you can use the words, because tapping on the points is the simple part of it. But then the art of it is, what are the words to use with it, right? So with the children, when the Dragon Flames of Love came out, is because I go in and say, did you use your tapping? Oh, I forgot. Oh, you know how to do it better than I do. So I wrote a book based on the experiences with the children, and then showed how to modify the stories to use them for yourself. Now, the EFT for Cancer book, Stephanie and I did the same sort of thing. There's a lot of scripts. I wrote the scripts, or what I call guides, in the book, because people get overwhelmed in how to deal with this. How do you deal with these emotions? How do you deal with diagnostic shock? How do you deal with making decisions about what's the right treatment for you? How do you deal with telling your family? How do you deal with their reactions, right? How do you cure any regrets? What are specific things that women have that men don't have, right? And what do men have that women have, or that they both have? And so you can use this for all those sorts of things. And so the guides are there to give you a starting point. You can use all the words that are there. And then we always added, change the words to fit what maybe you say, instead of anger, I feel rage. Well, then use rage instead of anger, because it fits more with what you are noticing, right? And then it allows people to start relaxing. So remember, just doing the tapping starts lowering the stress hormones in your body, right? And my tickle went away, right? And okay. And so then what happens is now you've got words to help you deal with the emotions and the thoughts and feelings coming up at the moment, so that you get calmer. And when you're calmer, then you feel more empowered, right? And it's easier to make a decision when you're calm than when you're like this, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that you're bringing up the fact of how much this is lodged. And I know sometimes we feel like things aren't lodged in science, right? We feel like, oh, this is so out in here in left field.
Woo woo, here we are in woo woo world.
Woo-woo world, exactly. Until we are starting to realize, and you brought up quantum physics, energy medicine. Well, I'm bringing up energy medicine, but I mean, I know you would agree with me. And what I'm trying to get is this is not the stuff. And we talk about these acupressure points, which we all know that when we look at Eastern thought and acupressure, like the energy field and what it means. I think we're realizing there is something to be said about how this modality and is so powerful. And Deborah, this does come down to the fact that when emotions are lodged in our body and they have nowhere to go, what does happen? This is exactly, the stress is up to here. We don't know what to do, how to do it.
Right.
And what is going to get to the root cause? We're finally at that point. We're like, okay, we got to get to the root cause, or at least help to identify when our bodies are masking that emotion or that feeling that. And I love that you identified someone who's like thinking, no, I'm not angry, I have rage. Like, what else can help us to start helping identify those feelings that we either were shamed, blamed, or whatever for,
Exactly. And is the anger and rage there because underneath there's sadness or shame or pain, right? But the beauty about using EFT tapping is that you can use it and start on anger, rage, pain. You can start with fear. You can start with any of those emotions. Because people say, where do I begin? Well, what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling right now is a great place to begin, right? And so the guides in the EFT for Cancer book as well are very much directed at someone who has an experience with cancer. How do you deal with the doctors? How do you deal with, the medications you have to take? How do you deal with the decisions you need to make? All those sorts of things. So it's directed to that, and Stephanie and Dawson Church asked me to write the book because of all the work I did in the hospital setting with cancer patients. And I've worked with breast cancer patients as well, and other cancer patients. And right now, a friend of mine, she's just in April is going to hit 18 years survivor. Wow. Right. So, and the layers we would go through, right, to help her move through just the daily aspects of it, right? And looking, where's the fear of telling her family? What's their reaction? How is she going to survive? Her fear of going in to see the doctor for her checkup, because what is the doctor going to say? And I said, wait, the doctor's confirming where you are. Your body already is where it is. The doctor's just confirming where you are, right? Mm-hmm. And so we give the power to the doctor to say what's happening to us when we have this inner power to start making a change. So if we go back to energy medicine, we go back to quantum physics and emotions are frequency, right? So, anger's not bad. Anger tells us we need to make a change. Pain is your body going, I want you to listen to me. Oh, you're not listening? Let me give you something else.
Yes.
I'm just going to keep knocking until you hear me, right?
It's so true.
Right? And so maybe a headache is just saying stop. Maybe a cold is just saying rest. You need to rest. But we tend not to do that. So our body speaks in the language it speaks, which is tension and anger, and those sorts of things. But that's a frequency. So let's say anger and pain are a lower frequency. They're just a frequency. Mm-hmm. But you can go up to peace. That's a higher frequency. You can go up to love. You can go up to bliss. You can go up to gratitude. Those higher frequencies raise the energy within yourself. And now it's like being in a pool of really beautiful energy instead of something that feels very disorganized or feels very heavy or feels very disruptive. So there's some real truth, it's like everybody's gone into a room after there's been an argument. It's like you can feel that anger that's left in the room, but you can also go into a room where somebody's just having a very loving experience and you feel it even if the people aren't there. So our body's feeling those frequencies around us. But the beauty is we can create those frequencies within us, right? Yeah. So when we're releasing the fears and the angers and the pains and the worries, we're helping our body move up into a higher frequency, right? So we're doing the hormonal bit, but we're also raising our frequency. We're also making a change and we're making a choice, right? So instead of the automatic response, now we're choosing, right? I'm choosing to get calmer. Ooh, I don't know how. Okay, I can do some tapping. There's a lot of Reiki. You can do lots of different techniques. But then you're making a choice. And when you're choosing, you're not just in the automatic pattern. The automatic pattern is going to come and go, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't feel good. I got to worry because But you can keep breaking the old pattern, that circuit that I was talking about. And then you're literally rewiring your brain, So if you're not running these two circuits anymore of anger and rage, and they keep breaking, you keep breaking them and breaking them, then they don't fire together anymore. And you're starting to put in some new ones that are love and peace. Now you're going to start wiring love and peace. Will rage and anger come up? Yes, because there's many, many layers to it. Mm-hmm. But it won't control you in the way it did in the past. Right? Yeah. And so it provides a lot of freedom when you get to use this energy psychology is the word. Energy medicine is what's used, but energy medicine, energy psychology is frequencies for me. It's emotions, it's thoughts. And when we're aware and observing, then we can make lots of different choices and come at it from a different perspective. So if you're suffering from cancer, right? Or you know someone, because this affects caretakers, it affects
Yeah.
the whole family. This is not just the person, this is everyone involved, right? Then if everyone who's in that situation together is managing their emotions, calming themselves, releasing the fear. So imagine now you create a different unit that has a different set of or a way of thinking, right? A way of feeling. And then it creates a different response in the physical body, right? And so this is why I find EFT very empowering. And this is why I was asked to write the book, EFT for Cancer. It was this kind of missing piece. And it's not that you're not going to take either conventional or alternative treatments to help the physical body as well. But this is complementary. It's never against what you're using, it's complementary. So you're managing the physical body and you're supporting your physical body by managing all the emotions and the stress, etc. So now you're really a part of the team, right? And everyone who's involved is part of the team in creating this release, right?
Yeah. And you use the word complementary. Like you said, it's not a replacement in lieu of, we're just saying it as an enhancement of what's already happening as part of the treatment. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, the newer research is showing that this change of your thought fields and your emotional fields, they call it spontaneous remission because the doctors don't know where it came from, but it came some energetic, emotional way as the start to bring it into the physical body.
Yes. And there is so much research, and I know you've seen it, Deborah, the lodging of what cancer and its manifestation of that tightness of emotion that has been
Yes.
deeply rooted. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so much out there. So it does come down to how do we help release that part of it while everything is happening at the same time. While we're
Right.
talking about let's look at your nutrition. Let's look at your
Absolutely.
excuse me. Let's look at whatever conventional method that you're choosing, whatever it is.
Right. It doesn't really, Stephanie always talks about this, so I actually jotted it down so we'd have it. So she talks about these statistics. In the last decade, the number of cancer cases has risen over 26%, and the number of cancer deaths has risen over 20.
Yeah.
So these percentages translated in 2019 to 23 million new cases, cancer cases worldwide, and 10 million deaths from cancer. So obviously we're missing something, right? And yes, we live in a fairly toxic, but yet also a very beautiful world, right?
Mhm.
So we have to look at individually, where do we need to detox physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? And then manage stress, because stress always is working to lower your immune system because it's there to keep you to survive, but it's supposed to be a short thing, like survive and then calm,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So managing stress is really, really important. And this is why EFT is really beneficial. So you can use it to, free yourself from energetic and physical effects, and you can release old traumas. Any of that is lightening your load, right? Reducing and eliminating your limiting beliefs. I can't, all those things, and your negative thinking, right? And so then you get to learn how to move into that choice of a positive emotion until it becomes natural. And do I still get angry on occasion? Yeah, but it's a bloop, right? Instead of something that would stay and regurgitate for days or weeks. Now it's oh wait, I don't really know okay, I got to deal with this. All right, let me find the best way to do it. And that's really empowering for anyone, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do a lot with mindfulness, and one of the things that always happens, a modification of body scans, like just literally when you feel that touch on, how does that impact? I mean, of course, we love human touch, right? But when we
Yes.
literally get to touch ourselves and these points that you're talking about,
Yes.
what does it come down to? Yeah. Anyways, Deborah, we have some moments together, so please share, where do we
Yes.
find your books, and um and where do we find you, and how do you practice? Like, do
Okay.
you see?
All right.
Yeah.
You can find me at my blog, which is deborahmiller.org. Yeah, it's posted there, DeborahMiller. And I do private sessions, family sessions, group sessions related to people dealing with cancer or traumas, or just wanting to release an old limiting belief and come back into feeling better. Right? And the EFT for Cancer book you can find on Amazon and other mediums, as well as the Dragon with Flames with Love is in English, Spanish, and the print version is in French.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Your EFT for Cancer, is it an ebook? Like, what modality does it come
It's a
in?
Kindle book at the moment, and so we first published it as a Kindle book, and so you can get the Kindle version, and we're hoping to put it out in print version soon.
As
But
much as
you
I
get-
don't like knocking down some trees, I'm such a fan.
Yeah, I know.
I'm such a
But
conservation.
some people still love that physical touch of a
I
book.
am such a fan.
But in the meantime, you can get the Kindle version. Please go through it. There's 14 different chapters giving you all sorts of insight and information, and tapping scripts and guides to help you along the way to being empowered. And this is what we want. Finding that release, finding that peace and calm, so your body can do what the body really likes to do, which is heal itself.
Heal itself.
Yeah.
So
And we're helping it along, right?
yes. I have to do a little digging on the Greek philosophers this week as I'm looking at the history of and I would just always go back to our Hippocrates and our Plato and our stuff. What did they tell us? What did they tell us about in that realm of philosophy and science?
Yes.
It's all rooted in how we can look at ourselves in that field. Deborah, thank you for making this modality accessible to all, because that's what we're trying to do, is to educate, like you are. Educate about the things we can gift ourselves with. And this is one of them, I find, when you bring this up.
Yes,
and I know that Stephanie couldn't join us, but I'm so appreciative of the work you two are doing together. Power numbers.
And let me see if I have handy Stephanie's. Do you have handy Stephanie's site real quickly? And we'll share hers too. She is StephanieMorone.com. StephanieMarohn. So you can she also does work with it. She has an animal sanctuary. So is another amazing person
that's amazing.
to contact and reach.
Thank you so much for posting that. Deborah, before we end the show for today, some parting words for our audience, please.
Let go of despair. Moment by moment, watch what you're thinking and feeling, and use that as an opportunity to shift into a higher frequency, because that brings hope, right? Brings peace. And I would also say, the saying, get into your heart. So when you calm your emotions with EFT, focus on your heart. Your mind is polar, right, wrong, black, white. Your heart is non-polar. So listen more to your heart than your head, and you'll find lots of answers. And EFT is a beautiful way to help you out.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Really appreciate it. Excuse me. Thank you all for tuning into another episode, and another way to look at how you can really add more life to your world, right? Adding more depth. And I just want to leave you with the idea that any way you can enhance your light even when it's not burning as bright, just try things out. Because I have realized there are no right or wrong answers besides what Deborah shared with us, being heart-centered and heart-focused, coming from a place of compassion and love. The rest of it will figure itself out. Okay, everyone, have a great week, and I will see you next time for an episode of Light Up Your Life.